Charles Bronson. I'd been a part of the underbelly of the hard man scene for a long time, and I was friends with the notorious prisoner the world knows as Charles Bronson. We'd exchanged lots of letters and pleasantries over the years and had some laughs along the way. Some of the things he'd say would be from a man who was a deep thinker, a man who knew what life was all about and had his fair share of experiences. In other words, he didn't waffle on about bullshit and didn't suffer fools. I found him to be an intelligent bloke, and not the monster he was made out to be. Whenever there was bad news like bereavement in the family, he would send a lovely letter and a drawing. Very thoughtful, with kind words. After a few years, I felt like I was getting to know him, and I was put on his list of visitors, but was refused to be allowed to visit him by the authorities for some unknown reason. I was becoming popular around the country with the release of Julian Davis's excellent book, Street Fighters. My mug was on the front cover, and I had a 16-page story in there. Maybe that was the reason I was refused a visit to see Bronson. Charlie loved painting and drawing, and his artwork was getting better. He loved his art. He was developing his own unique works of art, the Banksy of the prison world, and some of his paintings sold for a small fortune. The good-hearted Bronson would donate lots to charity. One day, I got a letter off him saying his art was going to be on display, and he was really pleased about it. What an achievement. I was to be the guest of honour at the art display in Leeds and had to contact the organiser, whose number Charlie had enclosed. I did consider it a privilege that he chose me to be his guest of honour out of all the people he knew. I was busy working and completely forgot that I had to phone the guy who was running the show. My memory was refreshed when I got a letter from the organiser saying the show was coming up and would I phone him ASAP, and he left his number. I can't remember what happened, but I never phoned him and it slipped my mind. It was a big thing for Charlie, and he was donating to charity out of the event. I didn't realise how much it meant to him until I got a letter through the door which had a few choice words for me. He wasn't happy at all. He wanted to know why I disrespected him by my no-show. Lots of other people turned out, so what was my excuse? He said it was all for charity, and I should be ashamed of myself. If I was in his shoes, no doubt, I would have felt the same. My reaction to it was to write Bronson a strongly worded letter which I know would have had him fuming. It went something on the lines of, minus the swear words, "Who do you think you are, wanting me to be at your beck and call and drop whatever I'm doing to go to your art show? I'm nobody's fool, so don't give it the big one to me. You think you were a top fighting man? Well, come on, and tell me who've you fought. Nobody who can fight, that's for sure. All you've done is beat road sweepers and bums in bars. I've fought trained fighters, and I've fought at a much higher level than you. I'm a trained fighter, and I'm leagues above you. You wouldn't last a single round with me before I knocked your spark out. Anyway, you get the drift of the letter. Couple of weeks later, I was contacted by a representative of Bronson who said Charlie was due for a parole hearing and it looked like he could be getting out. Charlie wants to fight you if he gets his parole, and it could make you both a nice few quid, he said. As the months wore on, the people involved behind the scenes had the wheels in motion. Bronson versus Horsley was going to be held in a big marquee tent in London, and everyone who was anyone would be there. It would be an event not to be missed. The rich and famous love things like this, and the television and papers would lap it up. A notoriously famous inmate, Bronson, coming out of years in solitary confinement to fight unlicensed would be a huge spectacle. I was hoping and praying that Bronson would get parole. He always kept himself in shape and once said, "I'm the king of press-ups and sit-ups. I once did 25 press-ups with 2 men on my back, and I've squatted with 3 men on my shoulders. I've been making prison records for as long as I can remember. Show me a man half my age what can pick up a full-size snooker table, I can. Show me another man who can do 1,227 press-ups in an hour, I can. I once went 8 years without using weights. Then I went into a gym and bench pressed 300 pounds 10 times. I'm 5'11" and weigh 220 pounds, and I feel as strong as I did when I was 21. There's something deep inside me that pushes me on. I'm a solitary fitness survivor." An unlicensed boxing promoter in London had asked me a few times to headline one of his shows, but I always said no. Now, with the Bronson fight looking a real possibility, I said yes. I wanted to shake a bit of the ring rust off and sharpen my tools. I took this seriously, so I got into full training. I done my road work 3 times a week and gym work Monday through Friday. It was a real hard slog and sometimes I felt like packing it in, but I cracked on with it. And had some very hard spars, and my sparring partners didn't give me any easy days. Almost every session I had a bust nose, and hardly ever had nosebleeds in the past. I used 3 sparring partners, and all of them were quality fighters. They were England number 2 amateur middleweight Mark Denton, ABA heavyweight novice champion Paul Malcolm, and Craig Denton, who retired undefeated as a pro at 9-0. After 8 tortuous weeks of that, I had lost 2 stone and felt brilliant. I wrote every training session down, so when I looked at it, I knew I'd put the work in and was ready. I fought an experienced lad who had about 40 fights called Tony Lewis, who was around 17 stone, strong and tricky. The fight was originally scheduled for 6 rounds, but the show went on too long, so at the last minute they cut it to 4 rounds, as I was the last fight of the night. I could hear my supporters singing, "Horsley, Horsley." I knew he was a spoiler who boxed on the back foot, so I jumped on him because I didn't want him to get into any kind of rhythm. I cut the ring off and closed him down. I kidded a right hand and switched my weight over in a split second, and boom! A crushing left hook thudded into Tony's ribs and he was on the canvas in pain. The ref counted to 10 and I won by a knockout to the delight of my travelling supporters. Tony Lewis got 2 broken ribs. I've always had a good punch, and as you get older, the last thing you lose is your punch. Celebrity gangster Dave Courtney came up to me and said, "Richy, you can't outfit. I'm fucking glad you're not hitting me." The win over Lewis was well received and everyone was talking about the upcoming Bronson fight. There was a lot of excitement and anticipation surrounding it, and I told everyone that I'd knocked Bronson out. I couldn't see anything other than a win for me. Yes, he was strong as an ox. Yes, he was a street fighter. Yes, he was going to be very dangerous, especially in the first round. Yes, he holds the world record for press-ups, and yes, he can punch. Yes, yes, yes. The difference was I was schooled, and I had fought at a much higher level. I could take a really good punch, and I could fight under pressure and stay cool and focused. I knew all this and thought Bronson was underestimating me. The news finally came that took the wind out of everyone's sails, and the fight went out the window when Bronson was denied parole. I was devastated by the news, but had to take it on the chin. When I first wrote this book back in 2002, I just had a hernia op and was chilling out recovering when I put pen to paper, and I only got a few copies printed. Charles Bronson wrote a nice tribute for me, which I'll include here. "Some men are just born to fight, it's in their blood. They can't do anything about it. They have to fight. A fighter isn't necessarily a psycho or a thug, far from it. Most fighters are gentlemen. men of pride and men of honour. But if you fuck with a fighter, you've got to expect the consequences. You were gonna get hurt. You may even die. No man is invincible. Even the fighters at times feel defeat and some die. But bet your arse on it, if they don't die, they are coming back for more. Richy Horsley is one of these special breed of men, and I'm honoured to know the man. Charles Bronson. What a lovely tribute that was from Bronson. Makes you feel good when someone says something nice like that. A few years after our spat, we became friends again. We're a lot older, so there's no chance we would ever fight now. Our fighting days are behind us. In 2008, a film of Bronson's life was made, and the lead role was played by Tom Hardy, who did a great job. A few years later, when Charlie was allowed to view it, he said it was theatrical, creative, and brilliant. He had nothing but praise for Tom Hardy, and they became friends. Charlie has since become a born-again artist, and in 2014 changed his name by deed poll to Charles Salvador in tribute to the artist Salvador Dali. He's trying to get away from his violent past. He has served his time and learned from his mistakes, and I, for one, think he should be given a chance to prove he is rehabilitated and be set free. He said, "It's non-violent all the way. It's a peaceful journey from here on. My heart is at peace and my mind is set on art." Under his new name, he's been creating works of art. Charlie recently married Paula Williamson, who has appeared in Emmerdale and Coronation Street. I'm madly in love with Charlie, and he's madly in love with me, and we just want to be a normal couple, Paula said. I wish them the best of luck.